to the State of Our Schools talk show. This is your host, School Board Member Carla Powell. Stay tuned as we bring you news you can use about updates, resources, and community information surrounding education and our children.
There's a reason for all these tears.
Good evening, good evening. I am so glad that you could join us again for the State of Our Schools with yours truly, Carla Powell, and I am just excited about our guest that we have today. Of course, this is still Women's History Month, and so I would be remiss if I did not celebrate the powerful women within our city, and I am so glad that we have Representative Pat Haynes-Smith here with us. Then we will hear from Miss Katie Kennison, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming election as well. So welcome, Representative Haynes-Smith. How are you?
I'm doing well, Carla, and hello to the audience listening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Women's History Month to you.
Thank you.
And
you too.
thank you. To God be the glory. Thank you so much for joining us today. And, you know, as I think about this new role that I'm serving in, and, you know, the Lord has definitely been with me. I have been hoping to interview and somewhat glean as much wisdom as possible for those who have served in leadership roles for the school board, just as you have, and then also as a community servant, you know, what can you offer that would, you know, to help to sustain us and help us to keep moving forward in this work. And then just also, you know, whatever wisdom you would like to just glean to the community as well. So first, tell us about your historic position on the school board.
Well, I went on the school board. I was elected to the school board with the reform group at that time, and I think only 2 sitting members retained their seat. It was Jackie Mims and Press Robinson. So we actually got elected, and it was a trying time for us as well because we were still in DSEG.
Wow.
So we were trying our best to get out of DSEG, and we had hired experts to come in and talk to us about what was going on with the school system. But what I found was, very important for me, the schools that I represented in the inner city were really lacked those maintenance issues that were not given to them. That we had roofs leaking at just about every school.
Wow.
In the inner cities. And so we knew that was one thing we had to do, but EBR had not passed a tax in 30 years.
Wow.
Right. So we actually were looking at how we could get a tax passed at that time, as well as how do we get out of DSEG. So we actually got in front of Judge Parker. Everybody blamed Judge Parker for what happened, but Judge Parker wasn't the leading and guiding person for the DSEG case. It was a school board. He offered them all kinds of maps and what have you, and they just refused to accept any of them. So when they didn't accept any of them, he said, well, I'll make my own map. And that's what he did. He's the one that drew the maps at the time because of the fact that the school board would not act. And we got out of the desegregation lawsuit at that time while I was a tenured school board member. And then we went out to tackle the tax, and that was also a big thing for us because, as I said, taxes hadn't been passed in EBR for 30 years. We did end up passing that tax. So that's 2 historic things that I participated in on the school board. And there's one other that the kids may not like, but I was called the uniform queen.
Oh.
I was the one that decided we should have uniforms for our kids because just like today, things are happening on campuses, but at least the school and the teachers and the administration would know who the kids are on their campus. Mm-hmm. And that was important for me because of a safety issue for our kids in school. Serving on the school board was very interesting, but we did a lot of things together, and we didn't always agree, for sure. Did not always agree, which is consistent with people of different mindsets.
Absolutely.
That you don't always agree, but you come to some compromise, and that was one of the things that we ended up trying to do was to meet with people and they called us illegal. We got fined for that because we were meeting groups of threes.
Yes, indeed.
Which at that time somebody told on us. So, but the thing was that during those conversations, we had both Republicans and Democrats sitting together, talking about the best way to eliminate some of the issues that we had in the school system at that time, and it really was. Schools were not really preparing our kids for the real world. We also had the issue of most of our inner city black high schools did not offer AP classes for them. The other part was, you could always tell that you were in an inner city school.
Wow.
And when we passed the tax, it was really a heartfelt tax because we were able to build schools in our inner cities.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've given us a lot in that one statement. And so what I think about, first of all, I wanted to share, I think that it's amazing that you got a chance to serve with Dr. Robinson. He was one of my first guests on the first show that we hosted. So I was glad that he was able to be on. Also, the ideas that you mentioned about pretty much having equitable resources within the inner city schools. Some of those situations we're still dealing with today. And then also I shared on a previous show that I think that I may have been on the cuff of the DSEC plan because I'm a Scotlandville Magnet High graduate,
right,
which is an Eagle. And then the other side to that is I remember uniforms became required the year after I graduated from high school.
And
so I remember all those different things.
Right. And it's interesting because Baton Rouge High refused to go to uniforms. They were the only ones. And we tried our best to get them to do like an academic look, like a blazer or things of that sort that would set them apart if they chose to. But they just chose not to go with uniforms at all. But
look, and we were so jealous of them.
I think all the schools were that they got to do that. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And you mentioned as well that the uniforms were to provide a certain identity for students on campus. Now, what I've heard in the past as well is that it helped you to not be able to identify low income from non-low income.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It was to put that equity there as well, where children were not being labeled because of the way they dressed going to school. Correct. Or how they looked going to school. So, and believe you me, some of the principals that I worked with said, now, there was some that had white shirts and some didn't have. They decided, okay, we were going to buy a washing machine, So they would even wash kids' clothes. But I'm glad we took the white. Mostly, I don't think we have any white T-shirts, white polo shirts at all anymore because they got stained from lunches and what have you.
Yeah, we're in the burgundy and blue, and then the blue and khaki, and the high schools have their school color in khaki.
Right. Yeah. So, but I tell you, it was just rewarding for me to be able to see us make some of the changes that we did.
Yes.
And one of the interesting things about being on the school board after Dr. Weiss came in. Dr. Weiss was a superintendent up in Ashtabula, Ohio, which is where I taught before coming back home. I spent 18 years in Ohio and came back home. And when he walked in to introduce himself at Baton Rouge High, I snuck up behind him and I said, "How is Gus Powell and started. He turned, how do you know these people? I said, because I was right there in Ashtabula as well, so teaching in Ashtabula at one of the middle schools. So yes, but the other part of that though is the closeness that people can get if they choose to get close.
Absolutely.
You sometimes people put up barriers for no reason whatsoever. But you've got to be able to at least sit and talk with somebody and be able to understand their side while they listen to your side. And it's just not happening right now. Everybody seems to get in a silo, which we tried to eliminate even when we were on the board, to not work in silos. And that's why we made sure that, the conversations went on. We had committee meetings now, so that helped as well to be able to go have committee meetings. And I don't think you all have committee meetings now. You have that big meeting workshop.
Right. We have the committee of the whole,
Right.
which is, just all the committees pretty much in one, just still having one conversation to kind of build to the consent agenda
Right.
on the full board.
Exactly. And I go back to passing the tax and all the new schools, and bring us to mind Dufrock, how it looks now, and it has the old school attached to it. That was one of my schools, and went in there to just do a walkthrough with the principal. They were pulling up tiles, and I said, "Aren't those of asbestos tile?" The folks didn't care. At that time, so we had to make them go back, and they were pulling up pieces of them that were broken. And I said, "You can't do that. These are kids in this building, And then went to the restrooms and saw the restrooms the way they looked, and asked the school board to do something about the restrooms. Well, they did something. They went and put a piece of plywood with some hinges on it, and that was the doors for the restroom. I mentioned that at a school board meeting one evening, and one of my colleagues, who just didn't quite understand, said, "Well, at least they got something done at a meeting." I said, "You wouldn't want that to go in your schools up in where you live. I know. So why should these children have to go through this kind of a situation?" So we had to have sometimes the bitter talks, but sometimes the sweet talks as well. And so the tax really helped us, because you see Dufrock now, nobody would have ever thought it could be that kind of a school.
It's a beautiful school.
It's a beautiful school.
Yes,
Beautiful school.
ma'am.
Yes.
So speak to us about that. I noticed that you said that we have to be willing to pretty much speak up and speak out. And I know that specifically this month, and my next guest as well, we are 2 of 3 women that are serving on the board, and remembering to use our voice. I know that you have carried on your voice even to the education committee on the state level. Tell us how significant it is that we speak out and that we be bold in what we say.
Right. You have to be heard. You have to present what you feel is right for the children of East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. And if it's not all right, somebody has to say it.
Absolutely.
If it's not being said by the board chair, if it's not being said by other folks from other parts of the parish, you can't just worry about the kids that you represent. You've got to represent all of the kids. And the only way for you to come to some kind of a conversation is somebody has to say, "This is not right."
Absolutely.
And so you've got to speak out. In fact, Jackie Mims and I were called militants on the board, because we always spoke out against things that we felt were just not right in the schools. And so, you've got to do that, though. And I carried that on to the legislature as well when things were not right as well. So I applaud you all, definitely, for being outspoken, because the only way to make change is somebody to realize that a change is needed.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I will say with that, thank you once again for joining us. And you've also mentioned a bit about the beginning of the tax. And now we are right here at the point of voting for the renewal
Exactly right.
of the 4 propositions. So will you speak to that for us?
Yeah, and I'm on Nextdoor, which is a conversation with people across the state and in your own neighborhood. But the one thing I hear about the tax, and I'm concerned about it, is that we've got to control the dangers that exist in our schools, control what happens in our buildings, or outside of our buildings. And people are taking that as a way saying, well, we shouldn't pass this tax. Why should we give them any more money when they're not controlling the kids that are in the schools? And I take issue with that, because the only way to continue to do things that are right for kids, you've got to renew these taxes. You've got to renew
Absolutely.
them. And there was one year that we were scared about this as well when I was on the board, that the one tax wouldn't be passed. And we had to go and allow teachers to speak out about, they put together reports at the board meeting. If that teacher pay issue came up, they would get it taken away from them. It would no longer be available for you to pay them.
Yeah.
So when you drop that, you're going to drop good teachers, you're going to leave, and so you want to make sure that you're keeping your schools whole with qualified and quality teachers that are in front of the children. So even just the idea of the discipline, that's a part of it as well. We just got to do some more innovative, creative things about disciplining our kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think that's some of the things that folks need to understand, that you've got to peruse what works in other places that are similar to us, but not necessarily say that you're just like them. You've got to be able to pick and choose what you think would work in East Baton Rouge Parish, because East Baton Rouge Parish is a hard parish to make change.
We're very unique.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Well, I just want to say thank you once again, Representative Smith, for joining us. You all, this is difficult for me to say because I normally call her Soror.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for joining us, though, and for sharing the wisdom that you've shared. I hope that you will join us again. And once again, happy Women's History Month to you. And you all, once again, we are glad to say that we have had Representative Smith on the line with us, sharing her wisdom about our educational community. So we will now turn to our sponsors.
Thank you.
I just gotta believe.
This is The State of Our Schools with your host, School Board Member Carla Powell. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Is in store for me.
Yo, Dad, come play some ball. You're not my dad.
I'm not your dad. Of course I'm your dad's son. If I wasn't your dad, would I be able to do this?
What are you doing?
I'm doing this. Make a swish. Uh-oh. Jake from State Farm.
Here's the deal. There's no replacing the real Chris Paul.
Not my car.
Just like there's no replacing State Farm.
Come on, man. Stop trying to be me.
You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
For all of your insurance needs, contact your local State Farm agent, Mr. Morris Anderson. He's located at 3213 Monterey Drive here in Baton Rouge. You can reach him at 225-214-4000. That's 225-214-4000. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You know the Lord is never late. He's always on time.
When you deal with the loss of a loved one, it is never an easy challenge. But with the challenges, the Lord will never leave you nor forsake you. He'll be with you even until the end of the earth. And you know what? This is a time to get in touch with professionals who are consistent, committed, and concerned for you and your family. And Miller and Daughter, 5905 Highway 19 in Zachary, is just the people you need to help maneuver you through these challenging, turbulent waters. For decades, over and over again, they've been there, compassionate, professional, consistent, and concerned through each and every step, from the arrangements to the internment. Miller and Daughter, 5905 Highway 19 in Zachary. Call them just when you need them the most. 225-654-3802. They can assist you in lifting the burdens and making that yoke easy. Miller and Daughter, a friend in time of need.
And the Lord, He comes to see about me. Just when I need the Lord. Just when I need Him.
If you're in a sticky situation,
what'd you do?
And need to get unstuck,
the solution is well within our grasp.
ABC Star Bail Bonding Company has got you covered. Service
when?
Anytime, anywhere.
Oh, yeah!
For more information, contact Agent Dawn Michelle.
Okay, ready?
At 288-9004 or 357-6911. ABC Star Bail Bonding Company. Service
when?
Anytime, anywhere.
Attention business owners. Are you tired of juggling multiple agencies for your digital marketing needs? Look no further. More Creative Productions is here to simplify your life. We are your one-stop shop for all things digital marketing. From website design to social media management, we have you covered. Our team of experts will help elevate your brand and increase your online presence. Don't miss out on the opportunity to take your business to the next level. Choose More Creative Productions for all your digital marketing needs. Contact us today at 888-572-0881. That's 888-572-0881. And let's get started.
Whether it be a motivational minute, 15 or 30-minute broadcast, a live remote from your church, or outreach event, WPFC can help. 1 day, 3 days, 5 days a week, we've got radio broadcast packages to fit any budget and your time schedule. Call us now at 225-926-6550 or 225-926-1550 and let WPFC serve you today.
Thank you for tuning in with us for the state of our schools to discuss education, our community, and our children. This is your host, School Board Member Carla Powell. Now returning to today's conversation.
Someday I will see.
Good afternoon. Once again, thank you for joining us and staying tuned to the state of our schools with yours truly, Carla Powell. We're thankful that we had a wonderful conversation with former Representative Miss Patricia Haynes-Smith, who shared quite a bit of historical context of what is going on within our school district today and the ideas of our tax renewal, and then also how to service the needs of our teachers and our school population. But I am super elated that I have my colleague with me today. I shared when I had my last colleague, Miss Shoshone Stewart, on that these are my favorites because we make up the girl power. No offense, no pun intended to our gentlemen who are on the school board, but these ladies are so cool and so empowering. And so happy Women's History Month to you, Miss Katie Kennison of District 8.
You as well, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just glad that you could join us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Miss Kennison. I know you got some beautiful babies sitting right outside, y'all. We tried to get them to join us, but they said that they were not.
Yeah.
So tell us who you are.
Well, I was hoping they would do all the talking for me, but apparently they're going to remain silent. I'm a mom first. I've got 2 kids in the EBR system, a 5th grader and a kindergartner. Just the quick version, I never intended on being a school board member. I have no political experience whatsoever. A little background just on me. Like I said, I'm a mom first. Yes. I also am very passionate yoga instructor. I teach hot yoga. Yoga is for sure the passion of my life, and yoga philosophy oddly has been extremely helpful in this school board environment. So I do that. I teach yoga, and I also am a psychometrist. So I do psychological testing. I do educational testing as well as neuropsychological testing.
Very cool.
Part-time, just kind of couple of days a week.
Wow.
I wear a lot of hats. As far as being a school board member, it came as quite a surprise to me as well as the rest of the community. I was convinced on the last day to put your name on the ballot to to do just that. And at the time, I was just like, no. I had no idea what a school board member did, to be perfectly honest. I'm always honest and transparent. That's what you're gonna get with me, whether it serves me or not. You get the truth. So I didn't really know what a school board did. But a PTO mom convinced me in a short conversation that good humans were needed on the board, and so I went and put my name in, and it's been a crazy experience ever since. I never expected to be elected. I don't really align with the campaign process or promoting myself or things I can do per se. Like I didn't know what I was getting into. You've seen me.
So what I will say though is thank you for your service, and that's something though that is very authentic and very needed. I mean, when we think about as parents, you and I have talked about that before. I have my son and my niece and nephews that I'm very close to. That's a voice that needs to be heard,
Yeah, I'm finding that. Before the swearing in, a lot of people were telling me, that you're so refreshing. We really need this, and I'm like, I don't really know what you're talking about. I'm just a person. I've got no real skills or talents that that could be used here. I'm not sure what you mean by this is needed, but I'm finding now that we're here that I'm hoping to provide some sort of help in the district.
Absolutely.
Just having a voice.
Yes.
I'm finding that there's a lot of community members that don't have a voice, that really need one, and I've got no, like I said, political interest whatsoever in this position. I've got no backing of any sort. So it's just me making observations, hearing from the community what the problems are, what possible solutions might be, and bringing it to the table and making it known.
That's amazing. So let me ask you this. So with District 8, tell us what are the perimeters of District 8? So where's your district exactly?
I have a smaller district as far as schools go. There's only 3 elementary schools that I represent, Wildwood, Mayfair Lab, and Magnolia Woods. So it's a smaller, but like with some of my colleagues' districts, I'm in awe of how you guys yes. Yeah.
So you only have 3 elementary. You have any middle, any high?
Nope, just a 3.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Right, but right. As I'm learning, and you're learning too, like we are to represent the whole district.
Yes,
so,
absolutely, absolutely. And then I heard you mention about yoga, and then you've talked about the testing that you do as well. I didn't know about the testing. I think that is so exciting and so very necessary. So when we think about where we are now, the tax renewal is coming up. One of the topics that's discussed is the idea of expanding social emotional support for students. And we know that those buzzwords are used in many different arenas, sometimes with intentionality and sometimes not. So tell me, how does that coincide with your expertise of testing and whether or not should we offer these types of services within our school district? Should we be offering yoga, to help support our kids and even our adults at this point?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. My background in psychology as well as yoga and the arts. I'm a social emotional learning is not just, it's a buzzword these days, but as it's been important since the dawn of humanity. Education should be wrapped around that. We're trying to educate kids and help them be prepared for the world, and learning just core curriculum is important, but also it's a big wide world out there, and you need a lot of skills. And I'm not sure what I necessarily bring to the table as far as that goes, but the importance of the sort of subjective aspects of education are, to me, vastly important. And as far as if we should be, offering psychological testing in the school, I mean, there are certain services that are available. Like my daughter received her gifted evaluation through the district, so we do have some of that. But I hesitate to think that we ought to test our kids more. I think we're kind of testing them a bit much as it is, and it goes back to the social and emotional learning. If we're spending, if teachers are having to spend their entire school day meeting requirements that come from elsewhere, and not being able to truly focus on each kid and what each kid needs, and how each kid can improve and year after year get more and more prepared for life outside of school. That's more important to me. So I think that I don't know. It's only been 2 months since I've been on the board, so I'm still learning a ton. But I am seeing some things that, as I witness just the board meetings and get more familiar with the ins and outs of what is happening in EBR specifically. There are some things that I'm starting to get a feel for, like I should get behind this, or I need to bring attention to this. But as far as like actual, real, like specific, this is what needs to hide. I am not.
What you said? Not at that place yet.
Right? Yeah. You got to study a thing and learn about it before you can decide how you can help.
Yes. Well, I completely understand all of that. I think about myself. I say, well, I'm a teacher. I'm a parent. It brings a certain level of awareness, but at the same time, to know what needs to happen, it's almost like we do need 6 months to just become a researcher.
Right, yeah.
Before we start that process. But I wanted to tell you thank you. Thank you for your service. And number one, thank you for coming and joining us today. And considering the 3 schools that you mentioned as well, why don't you share with your constituents how they can reach you if they had any concerns or questions or wanted to reach out to you? How should they contact you?
Sure, absolutely. My home address, I'm just kidding. I would like to encourage anyone in Baton Rouge to reach out to me with any concerns or questions or anything related to all of our beautiful kids in every school. My email address is probably the best way to reach me. Again, like let's see, it's Kennison 8. Okay, yes. At ebrschools.org. That's KKENNISON 8. I believe I'm here to be a voice. So, yes. If nothing else. So, if you feel like you have something to say that attention needs to be drawn to, that's the email address.
Absolutely.
Send things to.
Absolutely. So thank you once again. You all, this was my meet my colleague segment. So once again, Miss Katie Kennison has joined us. Make sure that you reach out if you have any concerns or would like to contact her. She has shared her email address with you and has shared her wonderful arts and skills with you as well. And I appreciate you joining us today. I surely hope that you come back.
Absolutely. Anytime. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So we will now turn to our sponsors.
I just gotta believe.
This is the State of Our Schools with your host, School Board Member Carla Powell. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Is in store for me.
Yo, Dad, come play some ball. You're not my dad.
I'm not your dad. Of course I'm your dad's son. If I wasn't your dad, would I be able to do this?
What are you doing?
I'm doing this. Make a switch. Uh-oh. Jake from State Farm.
Here's the deal. There's no replacing the real Chris Paul.
Not my car.
Just like there's no replacing State Farm.
Come on, man. Stop trying to be me.
You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
For all of your insurance needs, contact your local State Farm agent, Mr. Morris Anderson. He's located at 3213 Monterey Drive here in Baton Rouge. You can reach him at 225-214-4000. That's 225-214-4000. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You know the Lord is never late. He's always on time.
When you deal with the loss of a loved one, it is never an easy challenge. But with the challenges, the Lord will never leave you nor forsake you. He'll be with you even until the end of the earth. And you know what? This is a time to get in touch with professionals who are consistent, committed, and concerned for you and your family. And Miller and Daughter, 5905 Highway 19 in Zachary, is just the people you need to help maneuver you through these challenging, turbulent waters. For decades, over and over again, they've been there, compassionate, professional, consistent, and concerned through each and every step, from the arrangements to the internment. Miller and Daughter, 5905 Highway 19 in Zachary. Call them just when you need them the most. 225-654-3802. They can assist you in lifting the burdens and making that yoke easy. Miller and Daughter, a friend in time of need.
Thank you for tuning in with us for the state of our schools to discuss education, our community, and our children. This is your host, School Board Member Carla Powell. Now returning to today's conversation.
Someday I will see.
Good evening, good evening, good evening again. I am glad that you all stay tuned for the state of our schools with yours truly, Carla Powell. We have had some amazing guests today. We had former Representative Patricia Haynes-Smith, who shared her experience and wisdom with us on serving on the school board and how to continue to be the voice for our children and their families. And then we had Miss Katie Kennison of District 8, my current colleague, who shared, number one, what her life is like outside of the school board, in the social and emotional aspects that she provides to the community through yoga and through psychological testing, but then also what it's like to be a brand new school board member. And so, of course, as we close out today, I just wanted to share, we don't have any more guests, but I just wanted to share that we are right at the time of a very important tax renewal election for our school district. We are calling everyone out, not only for your prayers, but for action as well. The word tells us that faith without works is dead. So we hope that if you did not go out and early vote, that on Saturday, March 25th, that you will make your way out to the election polls in your area and cast your vote. This is such a pressing issue that we make sure that we meet the needs of our community, that our schools remain vibrant, that we continue to provide the financial support to keep viable, strong professionals within the classrooms with our students, that we continue to provide resources for our schools, and that we also make sure that we are continuing to provide necessary support for our schools as well and for our community. When we think of having productive citizens who grow up to be adults and want to continue to give and live viable adulthood in our community, this is how we do this. We share our voice through our vote. So I hope that you will make your way out to the polls on March 25th, Saturday. Cast your vote for this very, very powerful and intentional tax renewal that will keep our school district going. So once again, I just wanted to say God bless you to you. Thank you so much for joining us every week, Tuesdays at 4:30 for the state of our schools with yours truly. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for joining us today for the state of our schools. Again, this is your host, School Board Member Carla Powell. I hope this segment has been informative and enlightening. For more information or to be a guest on our show, call 225-443-0180. Again, that's 225-443-0180.